Let me start with a hard truth most people are never told. If saving money were enough to make people rich, school teachers, clerks, nurses, and middle-class families would be the wealthiest people on earth. They are not. In fact, some of the most disciplined savers I've ever met are financially exhausted, anxious, and quietly disappointed, despite doing everything right. They skipped vacations, they delayed joy, they cut expenses ruthlessly. And yet, years later, they're still standing in the same place. Today, I want to explain why saving money alone will never make you rich, and more importantly, why this belief keeps intelligent, hardworking people stuck for decades without realizing it. Hi, I'm Claire West. I've advised business owners, professionals, and executives across multiple industries, people who earn well above average, who save diligently, and who still feel financially fragile. Earlier in my career, I was one of them. I believed that discipline was the answer, that frugality was virtue, that if I just saved harder, everything would eventually work out. It didn't. And what I learned after breaking that belief changed not just my finances, but how I understand money, effort, and freedom itself. Saving money is comforting. It gives you a sense of control. It feels responsible. It feels safe. When your bank balance grows slowly, you feel like you're winning. But here's the uncomfortable reality. Saving is defensive behavior. Wealth is an offensive game. Saving protects what you already have. Wealth creation expands what you can generate. Those are two entirely different skills, and confusing them is where most people go wrong. Saving shows visible progress. You can open your banking app and see the number rise. You can tell yourself, at least I'm not reckless. You feel morally superior to people who spend freely. But money does not reward morality. Money rewards leverage, ownership, and scalability, not restraint. Saving money keeps you safe inside the system. Wealth is built by stepping partially outside of it. For years, I was proud of my savings discipline. I tracked expenses obsessively. I delayed purchases. I avoided unnecessary risks. One evening, after reviewing my finances, I realized something terrifying. Even if I doubled my savings rate, even if I lived this way for 20 more years, my life would not fundamentally change. I would be older, more tired, and only slightly more comfortable. That was the moment I understood. Saving had become a substitute for thinking bigger. Saving has a ceiling. You can only save what's left after expenses. There are only so many costs you can cut. There are only so many sacrifices you can make. At some point, the math stops working. You cannot frugality your way into financial independence. At best, saving buys stability. At worst, it traps you in permanent postponement. People who rely solely on saving experience three silent frustrations. First, their effort feels disproportionate to results. Second, any setback wipes out years of discipline. Third, time becomes their enemy instead of their ally. Saving depends heavily on time and consistency, but it does not multiply time. Wealth does. Saving is not meant to make you rich. Saving is meant to give you options. It's a buffer, a safety net, a launch pad. But most people build the launch pad and never launch. They mistake preparation for progress. This part often shocks people. Wealthy individuals care about saving, but they don't worship it. They focus on cash flow, ownership, and systems that produce income repeatedly. They ask, how does money come back to me? Not, how do I hide it from spending? Saving is about preservation. Wealth is about production. Saving feels safe because it avoids visible failure, but avoiding failure also avoids breakthrough. Every meaningful financial leap I've seen required discomfort, learning curves, and temporary instability. Saving alone keeps you permanently almost ready. There's another layer people rarely talk about. Saving gives you identity. I'm responsible. I'm disciplined. I'm not like those careless spenders. Letting go of that identity feels dangerous, but growth often requires shedding the version of yourself that feels virtuous but limited. Wealth is rarely created by working harder or saving longer. It is created by structure. Specifically, it is built through ownership rather than income, through assets rather than storage, and through scalable effort rather than linear labor. Income feels productive because it arrives regularly, but income alone is fragile. It depends on your continued presence, your energy, your health, and your time. Ownership changes that equation. Ownership means you are not only paid for what you do, but for what you control. It allows value to exist independent of your daily effort. The same principle applies to assets versus savings accounts. A savings account is defensive. It is designed to hold money still, to protect it from loss. An asset, on the other hand, is offensive. It sends money out with a purpose. Assets are expected to produce, to return, to multiply. Saving protects money. Assets employ money. That distinction is not philosophical, it is mechanical. One preserves value, the other attempts to expand it, and wealth, by definition, requires expansion. Many people assume time is the missing ingredient. They believe that patience will eventually compensate for a limited strategy. If I just keep saving long enough, they tell themselves, it will all work out. But time does not correct direction, it only accelerates it. Time magnifies whatever system you place it into. If your strategy is constrained, conservative, and static, time will not liberate you. It will entrench you more deeply in the same pattern year after year. A flawed approach does not become sophisticated with age. It simply becomes familiar, and familiarity is often mistaken for progress. My own breakthrough came when I redefined success. For years, I measured progress by how much money I managed to hold on to. I felt responsible, disciplined, safe. But safety is not the same as momentum. Everything shifted when I stopped asking how much I had saved and started asking a more uncomfortable question: how many systems exist that work without me? That question exposed the truth. If my financial life required my constant attention, restraint, and presence, then I wasn't building wealth, I was managing risk. And while risk management matters, it is not the same thing as growth. From that point on, I stopped seeing money as something fragile that needed protection. I began seeing it as a resource that needed direction, not reckless deployment, intelligent deployment. Saving and building serve different purposes, and confusion between them creates stagnation. Saving asks, how do I keep more of what I earn? Building asks, how do I earn without trading hours? Saving is about defense. Building is about leverage. One leads to security, and security matters. The other leads to freedom, and freedom changes how you live. You need both, but not equally and not forever. This perspective unsettles people because it challenges the identity they were praised for. Society rewards caution. It applauds frugality. It associates responsibility with restraint. But money does not reward virtue. It does not respond to approval. It responds to structure. Being careful may earn social validation, but it does not guarantee financial independence. And accepting that truth forces people to question the story they've been telling themselves for years. Saving has a role, but it is supportive, not central. Saving should buy you time. It should reduce fear. It should give you space to think clearly. It should never be your final plan. The moment saving becomes the destination, growth quietly stops. If your entire financial strategy is built on cutting expenses, waiting patiently, and hoping consistency wins, you are relying on endurance rather than intelligence. Endurance feels noble, but it is brittle. Life changes, energy fades, circumstances shift, and strategies built purely on endurance eventually break. Saving money is necessary, but it is not sufficient. If saving alone created wealth, millions would already be there. Wealth requires courage, systems, and thinking beyond preservation. Saving keeps you afloat. Building moves you forward. I'm Claire West, and if there's one thing I wish I'd understood earlier, it's this: being careful with money is not the same as being powerful with it.